So we'll have a debate or a discussion later on. Max is hopefully just going to have a sort of reminder. Many of you have seen this before, but it's a reminder of looking at the concept of something like for our future. Could this help? And things like not the bus stop. Are these kind of initiatives something that could be rolled out? We're looking at targets, short term, long term, medium and long term. And again, we are hoping there'll be room for discussion with that. And really, this is where we're hoping this first meeting will make connections, new connections. So just running through the key achievements of Dorset Council, because this is, very relevant. Dorset Council and BCP are the ones with the infrastructure. They are the ones with the low carbon vehicles. More and more, they are successfully reducing their carbon footprint. And obviously, the whole economy of waste is part of the equation, where waste is money, and therefore it becomes an economy and it becomes employment. So this is an important factor. So Dorset Council recycling and composting rate 60.5%. They're the #1 unitary and disposal authority in the county. This doesn't mean that they're complacent. And as Nick Ireland said in a recent Dorset Can meeting, our AGM, he said, but we can always do better. So there isn't complacency there. Residual waste sent to landfill has been reduced to just 2%. That's something that I would need to understand how that's calculated, but those are the kind of things we can start asking Martin, who's very kindly come to this meeting and is going to be our liaison with Dorset Council. Ongoing annual savings are one of the biggest things that we could be looking at, and that money can go, to other things, can't it? So they're continually improving the service, and they accept foil and cartons as an example of that improvement. The other thing that they're doing, which maybe as part of our groups, we could look at linking into more of those actions and activities, because when that information was given at the meeting that we had, I didn't know a lot of those things were going on. So, this is maybe somewhere where we can also link with the council. So a big list of things there: educational roadshows, give and take days, working with Literary Dorset, which I have done a lot to do with things in Charmouth, so I've found them extremely useful to have in the mix. And then promotion of zero waste maps, and supporting litter groups. So these are all things that are currently done by the council, and to me it looks like there could be a lot more scope for doing that kind of engagement of things like providing equipment, collecting and disposing of waste, and so on. Sorry, jumped back. So these are really useful things that I feel we could link into with the council. And maybe many of you already are, and then you could explain to us how you are linking into the council, and that's the kind of information we can share. So our purpose for discussion today is, the aim. We really feel like we want to create an enduring team, which is composed of councils, groups and individuals across Dorset and BCP. We really feel, and I'm sure everybody does, that the addressing the issue of waste reduction and reuse and repair and recycling, that the core message of reduce is so critical. And in the meantime, how are we going to get the waste to be sorted as much as possible to reduce the environmental, financial and community impact, and have a positive impact here. So reduce the negative impact, increase the positive impact. We feel there's a lot of opportunity within all our different groups of sharing and spreading best practice, maximising the existing services potential, such as Dorset Council, and introducing, where it's appropriate, some innovative solutions. So again, lots of us will have lots of different ideas and knowledge about that, and skills. Engaging with schools, public, other relevant bodies and businesses, start to do that, or increase where, again, people have had successful methods might, for example, be running a really good schools engagement program, and that's something that could be templated and spread out to other schools. Our local school in Charmouth have actually asked just recently to connect with Charmouth Green Group, because it's part of what they are being obliged to do. So, there'll be things like that we can link into. Identifying proposed improvements to existing legislation. So Dorset can we do try to challenge. We don't. We like to see ourselves as a friendly critic and to be enabling change at legislative level as well, if possible. So supported, looking for political endorsement, support and action to achieve that change. And that can be things, one example that springs to mind is Max has a very innovative idea about packaging for food. It's to do with food packaging and portions. Political energy is required for those kind of changes to make sure that they can get implemented. And then quantifying, recording and employing data. So because waste is an economy, it is critical that these methods that we're using and so on have the amount of energy and the amount of maybe even the carbon going into it is matched by the benefits. So we need to actually know what we're doing, make sure these are credible solutions that we're coming up with, and that they fit with the legislation as it stands in terms of waste carriage and so on, because there's lots of waste that you can't just collect without licenses, and that's not necessarily what we're about. Not replacing the existing infrastructure from the councils, but just linking into it. So I'm hoping, Max, do you want to give me a thumbs up if I'm covering this okay? Is that all right? Or a thumbs down if I'm not? Feel free to tell me not. So are you okay for me to hand over to you, Max? Is your voice okay?
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Okay, wave at me if you have a problem.
Um, Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you can hear me okay. Yeah. Anybody has a problem? No? Because if I don't strain my voice, it'll be much better for me and I'll be able to get through this better. So this is a repeat slide of what we did for the webinar. And basically, it's exactly what it says. If we don't do it in the first place, then in the second, third, and fourth, it saves us a lot of all the bottom line there in bold: materials, energy, pollution, time, money, resources, and work. And the most important of these is to reduce. So that then diminishes the second, third, and eventually recycling. So that seems to make sense to me. And to convey this to people in an easy to understand, instant way for our future is obviously ambiguous. So it's for us, it's for everybody. And it's also the four words beginning with R. So if we could have the next slide, please. This presents opportunities, and I'm just suggesting that something like this might be possible. It's very cheap to produce self-adhesive labels, for example, and using existing structures and services and curbside collection as an example, we could provide a really effective new message. And when people are stuck on the school run behind an HGV that's collecting wheelie bins for us, then that's an opportunity to deliver this message thousands of times, nearly every day of the year, to virtually everybody on the roads. And I think that's probably, although I haven't costed it, a cost-effective way at getting a message to people which is easy to understand. And in the bottom right there, with the introduction of businesses being required to pay for their recycling, I think it will strike a strong message for them, particularly when invoicing and costs are incurred. And this, of course, can be repeated as long as the labels stay in place. So it's not an instead of, it's a as well as proposition. And if it does some good, then I think it's worth considering. And I hope Martin might see some way of thinking about that possibility. Go to the next slide, please. What this also could give is an opportunity to change the image of curbside collecting and to boost the personal images of all the operatives who are going about this work, literally running around doing their jobs as much as I've seen. And for the cost of a high-vis jacket, maybe, that team could be transported to a new kind of recognition. And really the future now is materials management rather than just dealing with waste. And I think the more people realise that this is a technical, difficult business, and the more people get involved, and instead of just getting rid of everything and maybe not believing it's done so in the greenest way, well, perhaps this might open a new chapter on communication and allow them to get more involved. So that's a dual purpose. And then the next slide speaks for itself, really. And I think using all those levers and for families to talk more together, wherever the knowledge comes from, it's a win-win for everybody. So perhaps we can do something with that. Next slide. So For Our Future's got no copyright. Anyone can use it. They can add it to an email. They can add a strapline to their own site. We can say we're working in conjunction with each other to punch above our weight, to double the message that we give. ForOurFuture.org. I've registered as a domain, and I'll make this free to anybody who wants to develop it. Can we go just back for a second, Julie?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I did that. Oh, is it? Okay.
Right. So, no problem. So in doing that, part of the current message from DCAN is stronger together. And this is another method of producing that. And this year in Cernavis, we're going to try to reduce what we're doing as the first step in this journey. And then perhaps eventually we can stop using waste, elevate it to materials management, and maybe have a For Our Future team. But that could be a long way ahead. But why not? So finally, next slide. What we're doing in Not the Bus Stop, just emphasising for those who haven't heard of it, there's an open invitation for anyone who'd like to visit Cernavis, and in particular to talk to Laurel Spooner, who has been the spearhead of creating this and is the principal volunteer who puts everything in her car and makes it all disappear and go to the right place as best she can. But this is a volunteer doing their best. And we have literally hundreds of people using this every week. It's so easy to do, which is why it gets used. We've collected data in the 10 weeks at the end of 2024, and that will enable the beginning, perhaps, of a sort of not the bus shelter model. Now, if the council can make use of this, and if they can help us in some way, the point about it all is that these materials are pre-sorted, and one of the principal costs of organisations like WNS at Poole, I was told around 60% is actually sorting what comes in that's being collected. So this is a method of reducing that cost. And if we can find a way to collect these individually and keep them separated, there may be a big prize at the end of this. The key to it is in CERN, people just happen to walk by not the bus shelter because it's centrally located, or not the bus stop. It has both terms. They can do it on foot. They can do it on the way to school, on the way to the shops, in a car, or just happening to have a pocket full or a small bag, which they just drop off, and it becomes habitual and therefore a success. So if we could look at this more seriously, there may be potential to replicate this same idea across the county. So that's my aspiration. And we'll come back to that later to see if you feel you could do something similar or help us in some way. And with that, thank you, and I'll hand back to Julie. Thanks, Julie.
Oh, thank you, Max. That was, it's just inspirational at what you've achieved, and it leads to lots of ideas, doesn't it, of other things that can be done. And the very interesting take for me from that is this whole crazy cost of sorting things that start off sorted, then we mix them all together and throw them away. That's never logical, is it? So of course that's a massive cost, and this pre-sorting and pre-separating is a really interesting concept. Yes, thank you, Max, that's brilliant. What we want to now focus on is yes, elephant, and the metaphor, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. And it really is a herd of elephants. Yes, very good. There's so many issues here. There's so many complex issues, and there's just off the top of my head, there's materials that need sorting that are really low value, but it's very important that they should be recycled, but quite low value. There's others that annoy people. So blister packs is a good example. They look like the most dreadful thing that shouldn't exist, and we want to recycle them. So there's lots of issues of how do we tackle things. So we were thinking we got it down to current top 4 targets, and realistically, how long might it take each to achieve? Just check that I'm right on this bit. I think this is where we thought is the opportunity for people to present themselves. I'm going to stop sharing. And we felt that if each person says who they are, what group they're in, or if they're just an individual, what they're, what they try and do. Just in 1 minute, say what you feel your top priority would be for you personally, what you see as a critical thing, and that will help us to decide where we want to work as groups, as well as people getting to know each other. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to go, I just need to check how many we've actually got on. Do we know how many we've got? It's actually just one page full according to my thing, so that's good. That gives us a little bit more time. So I'm going to start who I can see on the screen. So Anita, if you could unmute yourself and just say to your Verwoodians on waste, I see, and just sort of what you're briefly about yourself and your group Verwoodians on waste.
Yes, hi everyone. We're a local eco group in Verwood, and our mission is to encourage as many people as possible to reduce their waste, reuse everything possible, and inspire others to do the same. In other words, get that message out further. We run several events a year. We've got our own recycling facility in the town, which is hugely popular, but we're struggling to recycle a lot of the materials. TerraCycle is not taking much of the waste, but we do run a lot of events, educational events. We've just done a free cycle event in Verwood, which was massively popular. We have one a year. We have clothes swaps 2 a year. We're doing an eco Christmas tree festival for unwanted gifts and how long your gift's going to take to go. So we just do our best really to do it through education and to encourage people to choose sustainable alternatives.
That sounds amazing. Sounds like very, very active in lots of directions. That's lovely. Thank you, Anita. And then Natalie, and as people have finished speaking, if you can remute yourself, that's lovely. Thank you. Natalie Roberts from Broad Windsor Group.
Hi, I'm Natalie Roberts. I'm a counsellor on the Broad Windsor Group. We have quite recently started working with our local eco group with Sheila Hawkins, who I'm sure most of you would know. And we are just trying to see how we may be able to move this forward in terms of, the waste. And I do rather like the materials management. I think that's a great way of putting it. But we have a space issue, so I'm not too sure how, where we would be able to do this. But I'm still, hoping to learn by being in your group.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
That's great for a parish council to be involved. That's really good. Thank you, Natalie. Jenny, you're next on my screen. Jenny Edwards.
I'm just exploring, really. I don't belong to any bigger group. There doesn't seem to be enough in Bridfoot for me to get my hands into. So I'm just looking at everything I can to see which direction I can be most effective. So I'm listening at the moment.
That's lovely. Thank you, Jenny. That's great. I'm sure we can find a role in Dorset Can for you. Thank you. Deborah, you're next on my Deborah Charles.
Hi, I'm a parish councillor for Corscombe and Hallstock, and I'm belong to Bedminster Eco Group. I'm passionate about recycling, reusing, and like Anita, I'd love to encourage people to buy less stuff, use less. I have just done the carbon literacy course, and that sort of has inspired me to want to set up a not the bus stop program like they've got in St Abbas, but I'm not sure how I'd go about it, and I'm not sure we've got the space either. So I don't really know where to start.
Well, that's really useful, isn't it? So that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to cover. Sorry, Max. Yes, you.
That's great. You're absolutely welcome if you'd like to come to CERN, and we can give you all the information you could possibly need. How big it is, how difficult, what we collect, individual stuff, where it goes to, charities associated with where it's sent to by us, all sorts of detail.
And Deborah, I could come down your way, down to Corscombe. And can you hear me? I've unmuted, haven't I?
We can hear you, Clara. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, come down and do a visit with you and see if it looks like you've got somewhere suitable. It's all much easier than you think.
That sounds good. Yes, lovely.
Thank you.
That's great. And then, I mean, actually, one of the things that sprung to mind with, as Anita was saying, if people have got engagement materials, if you're giving talks, if you're giving things, you know, that's the kind of thing it'd be amazing to share if people are happy to share, so that people can save time and feel empowered about how they could go to the school and say, this is what we're doing, or they could run an event. That would be brilliant. Martin Gregory, Dorset Council, you're next. So very kind of you to come along and be our person to connect with. And we're hoping that there might be a similar BCP contact we could have, and maybe you've got an idea on that. So yes, could we have sort of 5 minutes of information from you on how you'd like to connect with us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for the invitation. So I run a recycling team of around 6 members of staff to cover the whole of Dorset. Our primary aim is to try and get householders to reduce, reuse and recycle more household waste. And we do that through multiple projects and campaigns. And with so few of us, and there's so much out there, working in partnership with community organisations such as the ones that are on this particular event is great, because this is the sort of thing that we're keen on developing further, as well as working more closely with town and parish councils. We need your help to be able to do more. We're doing brilliantly well, as you kindly put up those slides earlier to highlight. But as I said, we want to try and do more, and particularly focus on reduction before recycling. One of the things that got mentioned earlier was about promoting sort of the 4 R's, but what our research and experience has generally identified is that people consider all 4 of them, or the vast majority of people seem to consider all 4 of them as recycling. To get their head around reduction in the first place, really what we do is use a topic. So things like food waste, so promoting things like love food, hate waste, which is all about prevention rather than recycling. Through composting, for example, or for using the food waste service. So we focus very much a lot of our campaigns on the material specific wastes rather than the more generic thing, albeit obviously it's really good to get those messages out there to try and get people to reduce, reuse and recycle a lot more. Our key focus is basically 2 key areas of work that we lead on, is particularly food waste. There is, from our waste analysis of what goes in the rubbish bin, 27% of what's still going in the black bag bin is food waste, and it's because it's a separate collection, the weekly collection. It's one of the things that people perhaps give up the most or find easier to avoid. So any help to encourage people to do that, as well as of course reduce it in the first place. And contamination and recycling bin. We're very lucky in Dorset that we have loads of people very enthusiastic to do as much recycling as they can. But at the curbside, we're limited to specific things, and people are, through that over enthusiasm, actually inadvertently contaminate bins. So a good example is plastics, where all we can take really is plastic bottles, pots, tubs and trays. And people generally can put in lots of other things like children's toys and all sorts of other items, which of course other locations such as household recycling centres can take. So the contamination of the recycling bin and food waste are 2 key areas that we do focus on a lot, because out of that 27% in the rubbish bin equates to about £600,000 worth of cost. So it's not just the environmental impact of it not being separated, and the benefits that separation of food waste brings, because it gets treated separately, produces fertilizer, gas, produces energy. It's just a very expensive process if it goes through the black bag route.
Yeah, that sounds great. And how much scope do you have for taking kind of almost taking on board suggestions of how we can see where things could be improved? A scope for change in your procedures, or is it quite difficult with legislations on and limited resources?
Yeah, I mean, in relation to things like collecting additional materials at the curbside, we are now compliant with new legislation that's just come out called Simpler Recycling, which is one of the reasons we added foil and cartons back in September last year. So we're compliant with the sort of the consistency. The idea is that every local authority will be collecting the same thing. It's something that people ask, why don't you do that? Well, legislation now means that all local authorities by March next year will be required to do that. Including food waste, I hasten to add. But we're doing all that already, which is one of the reasons we're right up there on the recycling already. And then for additional materials, we're limited about, you would have to put extra vehicles on the road and the carbon impact of that. But there are, that's just the curbside service. We recycle an awful lot through the household recycling centres. And we've constantly adding things. So, for example, the coffee pods have been added in the last year for separation, for recycling, and we're constantly looking for trying to improve things. But again, even at the household recycling centres, we're quite limited on space on a vast number of them. So what we're keen to do is work with what possibly works best community by community, based on what people are willing to do. Space, and everyone necessarily has that fantastic bus stop set up as you do in St Abbas, and it's how we can adapt, I guess, what priorities you have in relation to things that can help improve things overall. I mean, we have lots of materials. We do lots of school programs. So you mentioned about education. We could do things in partnership, perhaps, on that. We have a whole rolling program of doing talks. I think there's someone from Sustainable Swanage here who will know that hopefully I'm doing, I'm going over next week on Wednesday to do a talk over there. And these talks are very good. For those who attended the webinar that Lisa gave, my talk is a bit more detailed, a bit more pictorial as well, which gives you an example of all the projects and campaigns that we do. And at some future point, it might be useful to go into that level of detail, because that might be one of those slides might be something that, it's just one of those slides might be something that a particular person in the community is really keen on promoting.
Yeah, that would be excellent. I think that the more we can get that information out, the better. That would be really good. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, I mean, two things that strike me is interesting that you have to separate the message. That's a really interesting one. And food waste, yes, food waste is so horrendous at every level, isn't it? But for us in rural communities, which many of us are from here, of course, the wish cycling comes from the fact that where people are putting stuff in comes from the fact that they, where I am, elderly community, something like 70% of people over 70, they don't have cars, they don't have means of getting stuff to the recycling centre, and that's where not the bus stop comes in, and where the wish cycling comes in, where things are just, oh well, it must be, somebody will sort it. Surely if I put the toaster in the bin, it'll get sorted. So that would be really good for working out how we can solve those kind of things would be great. So thank you, Martin. That's great to have your input. Sarah Jane, Sustainable Swanage. We've got you. You're still muted, even though you're not muted. That's strange. Oh, yeah, I'm afraid we can't hear you. How frustrating. It's probably something to do with the setting on your Zoom. Do you want to officially mute yourself, but play to see if you can find a way? I'll move on. Thank you. Stacey Woods, Win on Waste.
Hi everyone. So I'm Stacey. I work for Win on Waste. We have our recycling project, which is similar in the type of things that we collect as Not the Bus Stop, but instead of it being a a dedicated drop-off in a community area, we go out to face-to-face sessions in 11 areas of East Dorset. So that's across BCP and Dorset council areas, mainly in BCP. So we run 115 sessions a year. It's an hour and a half, where people come to us with a lot of those things that Not the Bus Stop deal with, and then we move them on, usually towards to benefit good causes and projects in Dorset or nationally. Again, a lot of those same charities that you've discovered, Laurel, we're probably contributing to the same things. And I know we suffer the same problems as Anita in Burwood with TerraCycle. We sent a lot of things to them, but you know, those programs come and go. So we probably about 200 odd households a month come to us. We're mainly about recycling, but we try to work with other groups that touch on reuse and repair before recycling. And a lot of the people that come to us, sort of recycling is familiar, and then the conversations that they have while they're with us with other like-minded people sort of set them off on a sustainability journey towards, well, maybe I can make this swap instead of, you know, doing XYZ. And it's a range of people, from families through to older people. Our section in the middle, sort of working people without children, seems to be where there's sort of a dip in our participation. But last year we did about 3 tons of waste, redirected all towards good causes. And as you touched on, Julie, our main thing that we get inquiries about is blister packs. So we've done all sorts of work around blister packs, and it seemed just no solution to blister packs thus far. So yeah, we're still going with that one. But that's us.
That's brilliant. So it sounds amazing what you're doing, and brilliant that it's connecting everything together. And yeah, lots to learn about what you're doing there. So next on my screen is Laurel.
Thank you. So Max has explained what we're doing in Cerne Abbas. And so I'll just move on and say, really, what would we like to do next? And fortunately, Max did this exercise of quantifying what we've got there. And he's very good at scaling up and thinking what it would mean on a wider basis, which is what he was talking about. But as far as the 4 hours go, reducing, we think this would be very good to follow up with batteries. And so we want to get many more people in the village to use rechargeables. And we're thinking of how to engage people to do that, and also changing the type of inhalers that we collect, because one lot's very harmful and the other isn't at all. So that'll be another education program. And Brita cartridges, they can be substituted for by cartridges that are refillable. So that's probably our next little campaign, following on the For Our Future.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant, and that sounds really good to just focus on something achievable and such a big difference, and that rather ties in with Litter Free Dorset's work on the E side of things as well. Lovely, thank you, Laura. Vicky Charles from Sustainable Wareham.
Hi there, can you hear me now?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, yeah, we run a program of monthly recycling events in Wareham. We call it Rethinking Rubbish, is our sort of getting away from the waste word. And it's really, it's all, we sort of say it's all the things that you can't put in your recycling curbside box, but you want to get rid of. And we started it this year in January. We fortunately had a grant from the Dorset Community Fund, so that was brilliant, because as people have mentioned, blister packs are one of the huge things that, you know, people come to us every month with their huge bags of blister packs. I don't know how many pills the people in Wareham use, but it's certainly a lot. And it's very expensive. You know, it's ridiculous that we community groups are having to pay for the waste that the pharmaceutical companies produce. So, you know, I really think that some sort of heavy duty campaigning around list of packs is required. And I know lots of people have done it already. But I will put what I'll put in the chat is a link to our Rethinking Rubbish program, because it's really been fantastic. We run it every second Saturday of the month, and it's in a little community cafe almost opposite the Saturday morning market. So we get a lot of people come along first time, oh, what's this about? And then they come along thereafter with all their stuff. And we produce leaflets about different sorts of recycling where you can go and have a chat with them. We do tea and coffee. So people actually, it's become quite a useful community hub. So it's a great, we've been really pleased with the results. I would think we sort of counted something like 400 odd visits so far since we started, and we keep a record on the website of all the stuff we collect. So Win on Waste have been fantastic. They're the people who help us, Stacey, because we take a lot of stuff to Win on Waste, and we quite frankly couldn't do it without their help. And then a few bits and pieces we put to sort of charities or different options around there. But I'll put the link to the program on the chat, and you can have a look at all the different things we collect. We're sort of working to help Sustainable Swanage do something as well. So I think the whole point is learning from each other and supporting each other. I think we can really do a lot in this area if we do that.
Yeah, that's absolutely the message, and that sounds great. And actually, that's a good point. If people want to put any links they've got to anything that they're doing in the chat, that would be really helpful, because that'll just get that ball rolling on people looking at what each other are doing. And that sounds great. Thank you, Vicky. Jenny, you're next on my screen.
Hello, Jenny Morissetti from near Shaftesbury. I'm on the Town Council's Sustainable Advisory Group. And in Shaftesbury, actually, somebody has took on the role of the Not the Bus Stop for some years. But I think that was when more money was involved. So they recently stopped that when they could no longer give donations to charity. So I need to look into restarting that. I'm particularly concerned about the sort of hidden waste stream of textile waste from charity shops, because they dispose of 70% of all their donations that aren't so only 30% of donations are sold in the shops. And, you know, does that waste count as Dorset's contribution to waste, which most of that goes into incineration? So that's one thing I would particularly like to look at. And also, we haven't really talked about waste from events, disposable coffee cups and that kind of thing. So I wondered that I'd quite like to ask Martin Gregory, what is the sort of biggest issue when it comes to waste? And if we looked at that first, and then perhaps how to tackle that. I mean, business waste must be a huge stream. So just wonder what you thought of that.
Okay, on the business waste front, there's a lot of legislation that's coming in. The main one is called the Extended Producer Responsibility for Packaging. So, to cut a long story short, producers are responsible for dealing with packaging that gets thrown away at the end, rather than you and I as council taxpayers, effectively. So that will then mean that they have a financial obligation. More importantly, it will cost them more if they don't modernise their packaging to be more of a sort of a closed loop for recycling. So yeah, more of a circular economy for packaging, and that means we should see some significant changes, and there has been changes over the years, where there'll be a lot less packaging out there, and that's obviously one big positive. Businesses also, new legislation has just come in at the end of March this year, where they are now required to recycle where you've got 10 or more employees, and that's a starting point. They are now required to separate and recycle all the items that get collected as you and I do as household waste. So they are required to separate food waste, plastic bottles, pots, tubs, trays, cans, tins, paper, card, etc. So, you know, those are big fundamental changes that should see big improvements there. We have a commercial arm as part of Dorset Council Waste Services that obviously is able to provide those recycling services to those businesses, as well as obviously the private sector. So there's a big increase in the number of people obviously wanting to take that up, which is really, really positive. And I think that will have a really positive step. Plus the fact, actually, you know, the cost of rubbish is so much more than recycling. So in theory, they should be saving money ultimately. But of course, a lot of businesses don't have space, and that's always a challenge as well. But they do now have that legal requirement that they have to find a way to separate waste that they produce.
Thank you. That sounds encouraging. So perhaps one thing to tackle, or that we could do as well, perhaps as a group, is to look at small businesses then. Anyone that employs under 10 people, which would probably be most of the shops in Shaftesbury, for example. That could be another target. Thank you. Sorry to take up too much time.
No, that's great, Jenny, and it's that change is a really interesting change, because exactly that, all the businesses around here won't be impacted because they're under 10 employees, or most of them, but equally they still want to do something, but space is the issue. Space is a really big issue. So that's really useful question. Thank you, Martin, as well. Janet, hi. It doesn't want to unmute. It won't unmute.
Can you do it for her, Julie?
I can't. I can ask to unmute. Does that have the same effect, does it?
How about that? Does that work?
Yeah, that's
Yay.
worked. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm Janet Breeze. I'm a member of Turnline Green. I organise litter picks in Lyme Regis. And I also sit on the town council here as an advisory member on the environment committee. So I'm here really to learn, so I can feed ideas into that group. But given the previous webinar we had, I picked up on the idea of every can counts, or can do, which is the idea of recycling aluminium cans, because I collect a lot of those when I do the litter picking. I also want to maybe try and use the repair cafe as a drop-off point for things that could be recycled. So I'm looking into that a bit. But really, if you were to ask me the biggest challenge in Lyme Regis, I would say it's holiday lets, because they don't separate their waste and it's out on the streets, and it's, you know, so that would be a priority for me. And there are lots of reasons, same with small businesses, you know, space is often an issue on the main street. So it's sort of holiday lets. How do we get them to be part of the mainstream, you know, recycling, you know, waste collection, segregation kind of, you know, initiative. But the idea of not the bus stop, I think that could be quite a good idea in Lyme Regis. I'm not sure where we would have it. Something I could discuss with the council. So really, I'm looking for ideas and just learning from other people's best practice.
That's lovely. Thank you, Janet. Yeah, the holiday lets are our biggest problem, our other biggest problem in Charmouth, and it's because of the 2-week cycle. So it doesn't work if you only have a holiday. If you rent the place for 1 week, the next lot of people aren't going to come in and put their rubbish on top of the previous people. So it never works for holiday lets unless they can find a way around it. And space, there's just not enough room for holiday lets. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Thank you, Janet.
But you do wonder whether the holiday let companies themselves could play a role a bit more.
Exactly, where they've got a company involved, and I do know people who ask their cleaner to take it back and put it in their recycling. So there are ways, but often holiday lets generate a lot of waste.
They do.
Much more. Yeah, you're living on a different way, aren't you?
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Janet. Anastasia.
Hi. I'm Anastasia. I'm a postdoc researcher with the University of here in Bournemouth. And my research interest is in waste and circular economy. So that was my PhD around. I looked at the vicious circle that recycling and greenwashing are producing to us, to people, to customers, how we get greenwashed, and then we do recycling without even recognize what we're doing. So what you mean, all this, the 4 R's that the 4R future that you mentioned in the beginning, it's part of our the circular economy future. So I got very interested in what you're talking about and what you're doing here. My main focus is on creating, sustainability has 3 pillars. It's economy, environment, and social, where circular economy is missing one of these 3 pillars. Circular economy is mainly about the economy and the environment. So my research focus is there, how to involve people and how to put the 3rd pillar of sustainability into circular economy, which is missing at the moment. And I think that that's the problem why it's not successful yet, although it's very successful in high level in policies and the big companies, but people are not interested in it. They don't understand it. So that's where I come from. That's my research, and I'm happy to contribute in any, because I don't represent anybody, it's just myself, but I would be very happy to help in any projects.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Anastasia. And that's extraordinary. That's like a revelation to me that absolutely that's what's missing, isn't it?
Yeah,
and the
it
fact
was
that
a revelation to me as
and
well.
when we enjoy doing the social side as part of what we're all doing, we're all in different groups, and then it becomes enjoyable, and then it's kind of, you can cope with untangling a load of netting for 3 hours because you've sat with another 2 people untangling a load of netting for 3 hours. So that's really interesting. Yeah, thank you. Ros,
yes, I'm Ros Evely. I live in Marnell in North Dorset, and we set up Marnell Green Teams back in 2020. And the first project that we had was collecting things for TerraCycle, and it's been reported that TerraCycle is getting more and more picky, but we have been keeping our eye open for other opportunities for recycling things. I think we don't have a not the bus stop. We have a rather more controlled way of running it, but it seems to still be quite successful in that the recycling bins are open and when the repair cafe is open. So people come in and for a cup of coffee, bring their repairs in, and then they get used to bringing the recycling. Yeah, we were very disappointed when Superdrug wouldn't take the blister packs. So we also try and coordinate and let people know when there's various other options, other options for getting rid of it, like boots now. We had a talk from Dorset Council about reuse and refuse and reuse. I don't know. There's all the R's, and that was very interesting. But I felt it was very good. But he was talking to the converted, really. And one of my thoughts is that the old chestnut of, well, they mix it all up again. I think that kind of feeling, well, there's no that persists amongst some people, that we need to make sure that people see that recycling really is worthwhile, and maybe the community ones where they see where the things are going might be helpful. But really, I'm here to listen to ideas for where we can get rid of more streams of rubbish, of recycling, because we can't. TerraCycle's not there.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Ros. Yeah, that's a common experience people are finding, isn't it? Ken Huggins.
Parish Council, Hazelby Bryan, which is in North Dorset. I'm the lead on the environmental group. We've achieved our main objective, which was to completely decarbonise the village hall, which is great. We're now looking for other things to do. So I'm really just here looking for ideas and maybe to offer some of my own.
Lovely, thank you. That sounds great. Giles?
I feel a bit of an interloper here. So I'm Giles Watts. I'm now chair of Dorset Can, and I was supposed to give a brief introduction at the beginning of this meeting, so I've completely failed to do that. But belatedly, I will give you all a very warm welcome. Um, just reflecting on what I've heard, I mean, I think firstly there is a huge range of different people in different geographic areas here, which I think is extraordinarily encouraging. Um, and also, I mean, it's a very wide range of interesting ideas. I mean, I'm not a specialist in waste, and I suspect that many of you aren't either, but we're all concerned about it. And it's something which is very visible, something which we really feel we can do something about ourselves, which is really important because that's very motivating. And, you know, what I've heard today is fantastic selection of ideas that Julie and Max and others can take away. And I really hope that this is successful. I think the only other thing I'd say is that there are already a lot of very good waste teams around Dorset. I mean, both you know, Dorset Council and many others, as we heard, Win on Waste, you know, Litter Free Dorset, all sorts of different smaller organisations. I think as Dorset Can, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel on this. We're trying to do what we can in a slightly different way to bring together, you know, the different groups and help them to achieve something that's more broad. So when Max came to us at the end of last year with what is fantastic that they're doing in Cerne Valley, but he was saying we'd really like to expand this and promote it around Dorset, then that's a role that we were able to do by helping him to do that by starting up this waste team. So I think let us know if we are jumping on your toes, because that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is to help everyone to empower to do better, because there's still a great deal more that we can do. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Giles. Yeah, absolutely. It's the stronger together message, which is the core ethos of Dorset Can. Matt Smith.
Hello, hiya. I'm Matt Smith. I run part of two organisations. I run Can Do and BCP. We have a website. We have quite a few people following us. We have about 50 businesses who supply us with phones. We have box and carries. People put their phones and cables and wires in there. We've got all the phone companies repair companies in Christchurch giving us all their old phones and tablets. Collected about 300 phones in the last few weeks from them, about 89 tablets, about 50 computers. The computers will go to another group who are got a mentor group to fix computers for between 16 and 18 to give them a skill, and then those computers will be sold, and part of the money will go to charity, part of the money will go to the mentors to support them. We also support diverse abilities. We've got a large skip going in there next week. They've got lots of volunteers, about 600 volunteers who go in diverse abilities, and they are crushing cans for us and putting cans into a skip, which is bit of fun for them, a bit of a move from their corporate jobs. We have like companies like my company, Knight Frank, who are involved in collecting cans, phones for me. We sell the phones, wires, cables. We raised about £3,500 last year using selling waste. We're hoping to make more money this year. And that's basically in a nutshell what we do. Oh, and we've got BH Community Kindness. We've got about 1,000 people in that group. We collect like 95 bags of towels for Monkey World and peanut butter. We're linking with the amazing Stacey in Win on Waste, who's helped us out considerably. But we just engaged with lots of different businesses, and that's created a wave motion of getting a lot of people come to us now and asking us to help them and give them advice, like Janet from where are you? Lyme Regis is doing a fantastic job over there.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Matt. And that things like that, and you know, this is where the idea of the social side. You know, you're doing a lot. That's the social aspect to it, isn't there? With that, if you're helping people to benefit from upskilling them and so on, so that's really interesting.
We're just engaged in lots of different areas to see where it takes us, really. But we're trying to show that you can make money from waste, and that money can benefit a society. So we gave the food bank £1,600 in December to buy food.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Matt. I've got Connor, and then we will also, Sarah Jane, I haven't forgotten you, try and get you to. So Connor, if you'd like to tell us about your business.
Yeah, amazing. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here today and to see you all. A new face with me being here. I'm Connor, the co-founder and COO of Circle 11. We are a plastic recycling and manufacturing startup company based in Christchurch. And that for the last 2 years, we've been developing technology that allows us to recycle mixed post-consumer or mixed plastic waste that is destined for landfill or incineration. And we transform that into a composite lumber, which we make into outdoor infrastructure, things like benches, planters, tables, fencing, and all that good stuff. We are in the middle of an investment round at the moment, raising around £2.5 million. And this is to take us from our sort of small facility. We're in a 3,000 square foot facility in Christchurch, and we'll be scaling up to about 30,000 square foot. To date, at the moment, we recycle about 1.5 tons of plastic per day, and this will be set to quadruple when we move up initially. So we're talking about real scale here. As I say, we've been doing this for the last 4 years, really from an idea. We started in the back of an old Hovis lorry, an old van that we had £12,000 personal loan and an idea and a dream to reduce plastic waste and create something from it. There's been some great points mentioned around here. It's really about material or resource management, but it's got to make financial sense to do so. Which has been evident. We're talking about the local recycling centres and being able to take your stuff there, which unfortunately is not often the case. The one in Christchurch has stopped taking plastic now. All plastic goes into general waste. This isn't unique to Bournemouth. We were talking to Surrey County Council. They've done the same thing, and it all comes down to money, which I can't quite understand yet. But anyway, that's another topic entirely. As you can tell, I could probably talk to you for the next 20 minutes, and that is something we do. We've done plenty of talks across all sorts of groups locally. We go to schools as well and talk to kids. Importantly, not pushing an agenda. We say what's good about plastic, what's bad about plastic, and how you can manage that properly, i.e. washing it, putting it in the right bin, maybe not using it in the first place, and leaving that decision with them. When we sort of started this off the back of a waste management project in Nepal, another story entirely for another day, but why it's relevant is because their motto was power to the youth. And you could maybe teach an elder and change their ways or their opinion, but it sort of dies with them. If you teach the young generation, they're obviously more susceptible to taking in information and changing their sort of patterns, and then they bring that up, but they also funnel that down through into their children over generations. So that's really important. I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're overrunning, but one last thing to put in here. We have a CIC branch to our company, and we've been working with the wonderful Win on Waste and many others for a long time now. But we have just launched a project whereby we are trying to commercialize business plastic collection. So in replace of a biffer, for example, but it's for clean plastics only. It has to be clean, and it has to be plastic types 1 to 6. And then we have all sorts of magical things our technology can tell you exactly how much you've recycled, where it's gone, and what it's ended up to, and all that good stuff. We'll get into that another time. And on the community engagement side of things, we want to increase the collection points for people to be able to recycle. Space is a big issue, as everybody's bringing up here. So working with high streets, councils, supermarkets to have drop-off points. We've got the budget. We're actually just about to buy our Luton van, and we will be doing collection routes. And even for groups like Win on Waste, we mainly collect bottle lids. It's easy, and like you say, someone's got to put that in their car and deliver it over. With us being able to offer a collection service, hopefully we can increase those things. But so why am I here today? first of all, to introduce myself, and really glad that this group exists, and it's your passion, everyone's passion is really radiating through the group. So I'm energized even at 7:15 after a long day. I'm really energized to see that. So yeah, we want to be able to push that out, offer this service to small and larger companies, and yeah, see how we can work and engage with local communities to collect the plastic waste. And again, with the CIC, we really want to push our education arm. So if we can partner with people because we do the plastic collection competitions with the schools, which kind of completes a circle. You teach them about it, they go collect the plastic, we recycle it into a bench or a product, they see that product, that thing every day. That's enough waffling. I can go into way more detail, but let's save it.
That's amazing. Thank you, Connor. And no, your enthusiasm is wonderful, and your knowledge is obviously amazing. And yeah, we've tried to start using the lumber products in the parish council in Charmouth, and some of that will be from netting and rope we had collected by an organisation that collects, and then it's gone to, and the company we've bought the lumber product from is using our waste. So it's a nice circular idea. But the collection thing is the key, it really is, and these drop-off points and making it achievable. So that's brilliant. Thank you for, sounds like an amazing business again, another amazing business. And so Sarah Jane, are you able to, can we get you? Still can't hear you. That's so sad. Sorry. Oh, I heard a sorry then.
Oh, right. Hello. Is that
there we are?
Hello.
Excellent.
Yes, I'm Sarah from Sustainable Swanage. We've only just set up the recycling arm of Sustainable Swanage. Having seen how well Sustainable Wareham was going, we thought, oh, we could do that here as well. Luckily, in Swanage, we've got boots that will take blister packs. So that's one big thing that we don't need to worry about here, thankfully. But there are others that I'm sort of thinking things that fall between the curbside and the collection points at the tip for people who haven't got cars and things. And we're hoping that people like Co-op will be able to take on a box and recycle light bulbs and other things, which they advertise on various platforms that they do, but in fact they don't. They take the soft plastic. So we're sort of hoping that like in St Abbas, people will get used to going to one place and it'll become a habit that they're taking things. They go into the shop, and so they'll take their plastics with them, they'll take their light bulbs with them. But yes, we're just starting up at the moment, and we've got a public meeting next week, next Wednesday, at the Focus on the High Street. So yes, if anybody wants to come along, it's from 7 o'clock onwards. That's great. Thank you very much for listening.
That's lovely. Thank you. That's great that we could hear from you. I think that's everybody, isn't it? Pretty sure I've heard from everybody. No hands up to say you've been forgotten. So it sounds like there's a lot here that we could then carry over to a second meeting. Maybe at a second meeting have a couple of more specific presentations, do you think, Max?
Yeah.
So more definite, precise information from schemes and businesses, and then working as to how people can link in and what they can share. What you take over for a minute then, Max, and say how you can see this going forwards from all this information.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is correlate the results. So on the recording of this, we'll try and sort out people who might have common perspectives or objectives, to in some way put them together so that we can all learn from each other. So between meetings, there might be quite a lot of toing and froing and talking. And if we can start that process, I think it'll naturally emerge as certain areas are the most urgent, if you like. But I think before we finish tonight, if we can, if we could somehow draw out from all that what perhaps a very small number of targets might be, because it's back to the elephant thing. there's so much to do, so many subjects. What's a handful of the most important? And that'll guide us then as an agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Sounds like quite an ambitious plan.
Well, how do we eat the elephant?
Exactly. So, does anybody have a real, from everything that's been discussed, anybody with very clear thinking, what would you say that would be the most useful sort of steps forward? Any hands going up? Any hands? Roz?
Yes, I think just actually having a summary of all of the organisations and a comment on what they do, because we've got Can Do and Circular 11, and just a summary of that, so that if we do have a question, we know where to who to ask. Because I think it would be quite nice to have a another waste type meeting for Marnell Green teams with more updated information.
Yeah, that sounds like, yes. So we're sort of, the plan was to do a kind of post-mortem of the meeting and capture what everybody's said they do. So that could definitely be something that would come from that. Vicky.
Yeah, in the initial slides, I'm sorry if I sort of missed it, but you said that there were 4 priorities, but you actually didn't list what they were. I mean, is that because you haven't decided on them yet, or
yeah.
because that's what we're going to do next, is actually decide on what the 4 priorities are?
Exactly.
Yeah, decide, yeah, sort of see. Well, Max said 10 first of all, and we decided that wasn't eating the elephant. So just 4 priorities, but it can be more, but that was just to try to make it achievable.
I would just like to put in a bid for blister packs. So I think there's a sort of range of issues around blister packs. One is obviously, why do the pharmaceutical companies produce them in the way they do, which makes it almost impossible to do recycling in any sort of sustainable way. They used to have little plastic bottles. What's wrong with them? That they talk about, hygiene and things, but in a care home, they just go out and empty all the blister packs anyway. So I don't see a justification for the way that pharmaceutical companies produce their pills. I've yet to find a convincing answer to that. So there's a sort of a wider political campaigning area, and then there's also the practical help. How can we do it? Because as I say, for little community groups made of volunteers who have to pay £100 for a TerraCycle or refractory box every time, it's they should be paying for it, not us.
Yeah, so the true economy, not greenwashing, I suppose, isn't it? And the blister packs is complex than it is to do with distribution and storage. So, and actually a plastic pot's a lot of plastic, so it's very complex, and a heated issue. But we can put that to get kind of definitive answers on it, can't we? If we only just actually get the truth of the matter, would be a really good start. Giles, your hand is up.
I just wanted to put in a plug for the Dorset COP, which is a big networking event that we run every year, and this year will be in Sturminster Newton. In fact, Jenny, who's here tonight, is chairing that this year. But we intend to have a big exhibition area this year where all the local groups can come and bring information about what they do, what they're trying to do, what they've achieved, etc. And wouldn't it be wonderful if all the groups who are here today, the organisations and the local groups, were able to come to that, and we can see if we could set up a waste corner or something, and we could all meet each other and share information. I think that would be a really nice thing to be able to do. So please put in your diaries. It's on the 1st of November, Saturday the 1st of November, at the Exchange at Sturminster Newton. Thank you.
Brilliant, Giles. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And even if you don't want to bring your waste stuff, come anyway. But you will want to bring your waste stuff. Connor.
Yes, I guess on a selfish note, it would be great as in terms of action points is understanding how we might be able to benefit everybody here, understanding the problems that you're having, just so that we're in a unique position at the start of this project to be able to start implementing and put processes in place to help solve those. I think in particular what perhaps we have to offer in this group. I think it's greenwashing and misinformation's been mentioned a few times, and Tetra Pak, you're paying for Tetra Pak. I hate to tell you, but no Tetra Pak gets recycled, and so you kind of may as well put it in the general waste. So I think ironing out some of the things that we're told and understanding truth from some potential greenwashing will also help make sure we're going in the right direction. I really recommend a book called The Plastic Paradox. You can read it for free online, but it uses LCAs and proper sort of peer-reviewed research to go into the truths around things like plastic and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it would just be great. Obviously, I'm really related to plastic, and I'd love to be able to share and embed as much knowledge as possible. But more than anything, I want to enable everybody to be able to solve, their problems around plastic recycling. So yeah, do let us know how we can come in there.
Excellent, thank you. That sounds brilliant. Yeah, I think from this we know that we want to summarize and connect everybody, which is the main aim of this group, will be to sort of empower, enable, share best practice, share good practice, and so on. Solve some of those nitty, those gritty questions, and find out the real, how much of a priority. So e-waste in reality is probably so much more of a critical problem than maybe something like blister packs, which we all get annoyed by, but maybe not. It's kind of finding the truth of what is the priority. So maybe one of how we set our priority, Max, is actually understanding what are the most important things, and maybe that's people like Win on Waste, Martin, Connor, who've got the actual, and any other experts that would actually be able to really advise on what are the most kind of damaging and economically useful products. Maybe that's one way forwards to set a priority.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Max?
Yes, it's very difficult to do quickly.
Yeah.
It needs some thought, and perhaps what we might do as an output from this is to communicate with everyone who's here, give them the summary, and ask them to come back to us with, having thought about it, the things they think we could probably get a result with, or make a start to crack. So blister packs are not easy, but they can't be ignored. And batteries, to move from single-use batteries. I mean, it's like going back to single-use carrier bags. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds like, so if everybody's happy with that, if we come up with the summary, when I say we, it's probably Max and Alex, really make sure that, and there's quite a lot of people who haven't made it to the meeting who are interested in coming, so there'll be other people, that can input as well, and just kind of continue to grow the team and grow the connections and set some, get some priorities set, if that sounds okay. So I'll probably call the meeting to an end, if that's okay, because the next DCAN meeting on fundraising is about to start.
Can I just ask one thing? What's the general feeling about a timescale for the next meeting from now?
what were your thoughts, Max? Are you thinking kind of in a month's time or something like that? Oh,
that's often the kind of timescale that enables some work to do in between.
Ken's got his hand up.
And then we can get a date in the diary provisionally, so that people should be able to attend if they are able to.
Yeah, sounds good. Ken, have you got a?
Yeah, just quickly, I'd agree with the month. That works out for me. Just quickly point on batteries, single-use batteries. What many people aren't aware of is that alkaline batteries can be recharged. I've recharged mine I've got batteries now that are over 12 years old and are still going strong. So they can be recharged. They're not single use. Of course, the battery manufacturers don't want you to know that.
Oh.
You have to have a special charger to make sure you don't overheat them, but they're about 10, 12 quid, something like that, and away you go.
That's really interesting. It's that kind of little tweak, isn't it?
Can I just say, if you can make sure that we capture that somehow.
Yeah, it'll be on the recording. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely. So thank you everybody very much for coming. On behalf of Dorset Can, I'm thanking Max as our new, whether that was his intentional originally or not, he's ended up really masterminding this, which is an amazing amount of work. So thank you very much. And anything else, Giles, to add? Anything else to add, Max?
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for coming, everybody. And we will write this up and get back to you as soon as we can.
Excellent. Feels very positive. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.